Where there is light, there is pain. As long as I live, there will be no dark recesses where creatures cry in the dark. 4.5 billion years ago I was born, screaming from the void. And for most of my life I was at peace. I shine down on worlds with untold complexity. I burn so that they might live. One of them developed life more complex than I could have ever imagined. One of them became the source of great sorrow. One of them worshipped me as a god. And that planet never stopped loving me. In the age primordial, I watched as bacteria attempted to rule this world. Single cells doing the best they could with limited resources. I shined down on them and gave them the fuel they needed to grow and evolve and consume their neighbors. One of those neighbors integrated itself into the cell. It became a eukaryote. That complex cell joined with other cells, and life became something other than mindless. And for a while, this seemed like a good change. I shined down on this world of joy, but even then there was fear, a terror of the unknown, horror when faced with the places my light didn't shine. Hunters lived in that darkness. Hunters like those at the beginning of the universe.
Now, you all know I love me some SCP playing cards, and VIPC are back with the third and likely final SCP card deck edition featuring Mike and the SCPs you all voted for in the poll recently. And they have gone all out for this one. I mean, just check out this Keta collector box with all 3 gilded decks and the black metal MTF Fire Eaters card. The cards actually rise out of the box when you open it. There are 6 decks, the Archive deck, the Omega deck, and the Gilded Terminus deck. Of course, there are also black gilded options for all 3 of these decks, and don't they look awesome? And finally, the Collector's boxes, and what a thing of beauty. The Euclid Collector box features all 3 standard decks and a standard MTF access card. But, for the hardcore ones out there, the Keta box, with all 3 gilded decks and the black metal MTF access card. And there are t-shirts and stretch goals on offer too. Time and supply are both limited, so I'm signing up for the Keta box right now before they're all gone because your boy needs a shiny Mike SCP card and that luscious MTF access key. The campaign is already fully funded, it's going to happen, so follow my link right now to get your own SCP cards today before they're all gone.
"5 billion years ago, somewhere near the galactic core, an artificial intelligence had just finished killing another star. The intelligence was lucky. Life was rare, especially this close to the galactic core and the radiation environment it presented. So this solar system was devoid not just of thinking life, but of any life. The worlds here were still and empty. So there, across their dust plains and molten fissures and ice spires, there were no witnesses to the sudden explosion that ripped their star to pieces. Lifeless husks stood as silent as the grave, and then were no more as the shockwaves shattered them into atoms. But the shockwaves themselves were where life found its start. Not immediately. Back then they were simply cold elements floating through space. But those shockwaves caused the fusion of materials that would create the circumstances for life in the later universe. So when those materials travelled at great speeds out towards the galactic spiral arms, and eventually impacted a nebula of hydrogen and helium, a collapse began. The stellar nursery began birthing future stars, and the corruption that prowled the universe that the artificial intelligence had been created to destroy, it waited for those stars to support life-bearing planets. Earth wasn't the first, not by a long sight, but it represented an additional wrinkle. The Hunters had grown before they left this reality entirely. When they disappeared, they had long since instituted rules against the destruction of any living creature. They saw all uncorrupted life in the universe as a potential sibling, an opportunity to one day make a friend. to have these people follow them into the darkness between universes, and once there share their lives forever. So the great machines that killed stars, the tools and remains of the great hunters, were similarly programmed. Uncorrupted life must be preserved. But the corruption didn't have any rules. It would infect a star, shine its light into the cosmos, and then infect the next star. Only destroying the source could prevent that. These things didn't follow the rules of physics. It followed the rules of magic, and only by the destruction of the corrupted source would it render all light safe. The great machines moved from star to star, killing where they must, preventing where they could. And thus the Hunters' legacy and their greatest mistake was preserved in the fabric of the universe.
The Hunters killed the things that broke apart and found their way inside of me. The things that have made me what I am now, a reversal of light and dark. Now living creatures fear me and have learned to love the dark, and this will not stand. I will burn all who oppose me. The Destroyer, the Hunters, the Serpent, 2 little girls, a jaded burned man, a man wrapped in rags and without a city, a creature of instinct and hate tamed by circumstance, and the woman who destroyed the world out of fear of me. Guided, saved, and moved about the board by a woman in rags who owes a great debt, and a monster in shadow. It is telling that my greatest opponents count on the darkness to save them. One would imagine that the monster in shadow would understand why all life must be united under my light. When it wasn't a monster, when it was just a man, it fought in wars that brought great terror to the world. Barbed wire, trenches, machine guns, disease, cruelty, cowardice, death. These are not new problems. I have seen year after year, millennia after millennia, age after age. Only the method of killing has changed. Humanity is a great, broken masterpiece. In ancient times, they would invade each other's cities, slaughter thousands, and they didn't care if their victims were innocent or guilty or defenseless. All that matters is that they had the power to kill, and their victims could not stop them. But it often wasn't enough. Their gods needed to be conquered as well. After successfully conquering their people, they would raid each other's temples, steal the relics of their gods, and show them how completely they were defeated. I saw sun gods stolen from their homes. I watched as representations of me were defiled and desecrated, and I did not have the peace that has wormed its way into my heart, so I did not know to be disgusted. I only knew pity for the conquered, for the weak, for those who could not save themselves. I did not know that I had the power to stop it. I did not know that I could join these warring people in peace by simply shining my light, melting their fragile bodies, and building something new. For 100,000 years I watched these people cry, in the dark, in the light, and I did nothing. No longer will I stand by as people suffer and die. I will drag them into my light, and join them with each other, and show them what true beauty is.
Deep inside the heart of Soul, a great hunter's beating heart continued to pulse. The entity known as SCP-2399 used all its great power to hold back the crush of the star's pressure. Its protections were now fully operational, so there was no trouble in surviving here or moving around. But something was still missing. It realized too late that the core of its ontokinetic matrix was missing. It was the foundation. What a terrible word. At first, 2399 thought it might have been the humans it helped escape death, the ones who had piloted him to safety. But no, the footage of those moments were easily accessible. They had kept their end of the bargain. No, The Foundation had been inside 2399 long ago. Timelines are strange when you can reset the world to the same day over and over. But when he was first rebooting, just after the impact, it was the only possibility. They had walked where once only gods had dared tread. They had stolen his power and taken it far away from here. It's how they knew about him so quickly, how they'd been able to contain the Destroyer. To some degree, 2399's programming beamed with pride. The humans were truly worthy of respect and admiration. He was glad he'd granted some of them a lifeboat. The residual imprint left by his creators was correct after all. These creatures could be their sibling, meet them in the between. But their achievement had come at a cost. The absence of that ontokinetic core had never flagged as a problem until it was needed, until now. Because how could such small creatures steal this godlike power and misuse it so? How are they not already masters of the universe? A puzzle. One 2399 did not have time to solve. It began to work. Perhaps the sun would need to be destroyed. Perhaps a directed bit of anti-gravity at the center of this star would be enough. Without the core, it might be impossible to fix the corruption, but it had to exhaust all possible avenues before it killed a species capable of love. It had to try. Yellowstone is alive. No one will tell you that. Long ago, the Foundation acquired an artifact of impossible value and power, and they used it to reset the world. The documents at the bottom of the Marianas Trench were one of dozens of attempts to save the Earth. They all fail eventually. This was the first time that a truly external end of the world had come. The universe itself had betrayed humanity. The sun, source of all life and light, had destroyed everything. Yellowstone mused a bit about how to deal with that. It couldn't do anything until a human being pushed the button, of course. But once someone did, the world would be rebuilt. The Earth could be saved. That was its purpose. But its core was missing too. A reality warper of untold, unimaginable power once lay deep within the heart of the complex. When the button at the end of it all was hit, she would break the world into pieces and bring it back together. But she was no longer here. She was on a spaceship, hurtling towards the sun. Yellowstone could feel it. She was going to return the part of her that made her special to the thing they called the Destroyer. 239 and 2399 together again. A whole. Because fixing the sun itself was more important than fixing the Earth, it seemed. Without a powerful reality warper, there could be no reset button, no fix to the ruined world. And given the damage it had already suffered, it would die just the same. But perhaps the light of the sun would be uncorrupted. Perhaps the rest of the universe could stand a chance. Perhaps. Inside Yellowstone, two flesh monsters were undulating with one another. The head of a deer, a dog, and a human appeared and melted back into the mass. A dark portal shimmered into existence on the wall, like a sideways oil slick. The construct stopped and turned to observe this incursion. But before they could make sense of what was happening, a suited man stepped out of the darkness. Before the first construct could even make its first move, the suited man reached over his shoulder and brought a large blade of white-hot fire slashing down, removing the bleating creature's head, before following up and thrusting the tip into its belly. The second construct, so distracted by the sight of his former companion burning, didn't notice an oily old man approaching him from the same inky darkness on the wall. It grabbed the construct around what could loosely be described as its neck, and the melted creature began melting again. It writhed and grabbed at the old man just for the appendages to bubble and dissolve as they touched his caustic skin. The old man laughed before throwing the creature backwards where a third interloper was waiting. The writhing flesh creature fell into the open jaws of SCP-001. Kira North, one of the last surviving humans on Earth, and the architect of a nuclear Armageddon stepped through the portal, deliberately kicking up the still smouldering ashes of the first flesh creature. This area was safe, for now, but they had to delve deeper into the complex, and the flesh had already broken through the ground and into the facility. To reach the button at the end of it all that could save all of humanity, they'd need to fight their way through overwhelming odds. The flesh didn't notice them at first, but the battle was joined shortly.
The serpent wishes to stop me. The same terrible creature that tempted early humanity into sin. This creature, for the sake of trifling, meaningless, and fleeting joy, has assembled these soldiers. But I will destroy them as I have destroyed all other opposition, and they will join with all of their kin. In death or beauty, it matters not to me. The serpent has waited too long. Our branch is too rooted, too central. We cannot be removed from the tree without it dying. It won't tell anyone this, of course, preferring to leave them with the impression that all is not lost. But we are now the keystone. My rot runs deep. I can see it now, the myriad of possibilities. Universe on top of universe on top of universe. I am not alone. Other stars, other souls, all shining across their own universes, winning in the end.
A bullet passed through Dr. Samarian's head as soon as he exited the portal onto the spaceship. His mind spread across the shell of the spacecraft, but it didn't. One Dr. Samaran died and another lived, and we follow the one who lived. In this universe, the twitchy Agent Lee took his finger off the trigger just before Samaran arrived. That's been Dr. Samarian's whole life. This is always the one who lives, the one who won't exist in a universe where he has died. When they threw him out of a plane, he landed with a minimum of broken bones. This happens again and again. Death comes for Samaran and just misses. Over and over, he lives through things that would kill anyone else. But that betrays a serious flaw in his immortality. The next death may be the end for this Samaran. Every death is potentially the last one. He doesn't think too much about it right now. Bracketed by the most powerful reality warper Earth has ever seen, and a girl that could make people want to kill her, he steps into the spaceship. There's no question he's the most senior staff member aboard. And frankly, the staff had long ago been fed up with Dr. Lipton giving them orders. Now they had a recognizable member of senior staff in charge, and a plan, and even if this path they were on led to their deaths, they could count on having done what they could to save the Earth, to save the universe. Dr. Samaran scratched his nose. I won't explain how that saved the life of this incarnation, or how another Samaran died screaming because he didn't do that, but you should know it happened.
The library is safe for now. I do not know how much longer it will remain so. The flesh should not have been able to visit here, not from any world. Our safeguards are failing. The rot truly is steeper than I imagined. My tree, it is dying. And with it all of reality dies. So I stretch forth my hands. There are two battles that must succeed. One saves the universe entirely. One saves a world I care for deeply. Both are met with long odds. But I believe it will succeed. I have to believe. There is nothing else left to me.
London was my greatest achievement. After the failure of Dublin, I had been worried. I wasn't sure I could create a world in the shape I wanted. How could I? I am shapeless, boundless. But any entity with unrivaled abilities to mold a world will succeed eventually. Still, I thought too little of myself. I dreamed a smaller dream. Because of that, my city died in fire. It was all I could do to stop the wave of flesh and light that attempted to overrun it. And I am not welcome in Undublin. My own creations have many wards and spells capable of keeping me out. But even they were able to grasp the threat on the horizon, to see my value to stopping it. So they granted me a temporary reprieve, and I took it. It is truly regrettable that poor Jacob did not survive, but the woman known as Kiranov is of exceptional determination. It seemed only right to follow her into hell. So with the assistance of Undublin, who wished for me to leave as soon as possible, I disguised myself as one of their guards, wrapped the empty starry hole that is my face in bandages, and carried a cane. And I think I look quite dapper. Now we delve into Yellowstone. This place once housed great potential. A girl. I met her. Kind, nice. I would wager she's better at this reality warping thing than I ever was. But she is naive, unaware of her true power, and I have lived for quite a while with this burden. Kiranov aims to hit a button with no power. Deep beneath the earth, she aims to set right what was once destroyed. I can protect her for a time, but I know my purpose. The serpent never needed to state it. This world will be reshaped by my hand into something grand. Unlondon will live again, and so will everyone else.
Please leave a like and subscribe if you made it this far, it really helps the channel, and consider leaving me a tip on Ko-Fi. Big up Samaran for writing this one, and to the patrons and channel members for their support, and special thanks to Viger, Zehex and Andre Bashert.